Hey, Spilled Milkers, Happy New Year. If you're seeing this on Sunday, you have New Year's Eve to look forward to. Otherwise, well, we all have January to look forward to. And here in Minnesota, we're hoping that includes snow. I hope everybody has had a fantastic holiday couple of weeks, however you celebrate, whatever you celebrate. Please remember our subscription gift to you, which is a massive percentage off anything you buy on Kai, Home, Kershaw, and Shun, all four sites, can be taken twice and be taken all the way through January 31st. So you have plenty of time to take advantage of that. And I would encourage you, if you are an unpaid subscriber, to become one. And if you're a paid subscriber, to get a few gifts for people, because the percentage discount that you'll be able to take is just absolutely massive. So I encourage you to do that. All right, let's get right down to it, shall we? First question, of course I closed that page. Julie writes, I have friends who moved to Omaha. Any dining, low end or high, that you would recommend? Well, I used to spend quite an amount of time in Omaha because one of my old roommates, who sadly passed away this last year, used to live there. So I'm thrilled to be able to give you some recommendations. One of his favorite places was a very, very old classic steakhouse called Johnny's Cafe, which, you know, kind of like Murray's here in the Twin Cities. Wasn't the best steak in town, but it was certainly a really fun vintage dining room, a really great experience, right? Where the experience is better than the sum total of the food that you eat. I have been told that if you like something new and modern, Committee Chop House is great. Last couple times that I've been down in Omaha, I always make lists of these kinds of things. I had great pizza at Dante. I had some really good Indian food at Canara. And David Utterback has a whole bunch of restaurants. This is a guy who is doing, I think he was Omaha's first Beard semifinalist nominee or finalist nominee. I'm having trouble remembering off the top of my head. But he has Koji, which is his yakitori place. What's the other one that he has? No, that's Ikarama's very good. Yoshitomo, which is just fantastic, as well as Ota, which is next door, which is his reservation-only omakase restaurant. But here's what's really interesting about what he's doing. Rather than just flying in incredible fish from Japan, Korea, Hawaii, Florida, wherever, because obviously in Omaha, it's a landlocked city and a landlocked state. He's actually doing sushi that is of the place he's in. So that includes foraged mushrooms when they're in season, local beef in combinations with things when it's in season. So he's really trying to incorporate a Nebraska food aesthetic into there. And for that, I just think it's absolutely fantastic. What else? There's one other place. I'm just scrolling down here. I told you about Committee, which, by the way, is in the Blackstone Hotel, which is really, really cool. Oh yeah, the coffee at the Mill on Leavenworth. Cool coffee place. I like to get up in the morning and go have coffee. So there you've got my some Omaha recommendations for you. Now, Julie also noted that back in the late 90s, remember the Chef Talk forums? She ran the Minnesota one. So that's pretty cool. I remember being on that a long time ago. So while I don't remember you specifically, Julie, yeah, we were on the original Chef's Talk together. Montserrat writes, I'd like to hear about your travels. I've traveled a bit. I'm sure you've traveled more than I have. I don't know what gives you that idea, Montserrat. Montserrat writes, my two favorite cities are Kuala Lumpur, love it, and Istanbul for various reasons. I love them both. Kuala Lumpur, fabulous, right? Istanbul, even more fabulous. Istanbul, gateway to the East, exotic. I mean, I just, one of the greatest travel experiences of my life was being in a little boat doing promos for Travel Channel. And to one side of me was Europe, and to the other side of me was Asia. And looming up above me was the Blue Mosque. And I just love the food of Istanbul. I think the people are great. It's a very, very special place. And truly one of those unique cities where you had one way and you have one vibe, you had the other way, you have another vibe. But the style of eating in that part of the world is absolutely breathtaking in all of Eastern Asia, really, where you have 25 different small plates come down on the table, whether you're 2 people or 10 people, and then a grilled or roasted item for everyone to share, and that's dinner. I love it. Anyway, Montserrat says, tell me about some of your favorite cities around the world and why they are your favorite cities. What do you find unique, social, special, or intriguing about them? Please share some of these cities outside the USA. Great question. I try to do that as frequently as I can, both here in AMA and throughout the week on Spilled Milk. I could just keep listing places until we would run out of time. But I mean, literally off the top of my head, I jotted down 10 or 12, and I'll give you a reason why for each, I guess. Mexico City, so much variety of life in Mexico City. It's a massive town, 25 million people? But an hour outside of it, you're in an Aztec town, a half hour through traffic from the Centro, and you're out in Xochimilco on a small boat going through the Chinampas, these little mini islands where farmers are growing food. And if you show up at the right time, someone will make you lunch. I love Mexico City. The variety of life from, dangerous markets and neighborhoods that people say don't go into, which I think is total bullshit. Go into them. People are people. You're going to be fine. These are the same jerks that, like, when I recommend, delicious, little diners in Harlem, all like sort of bristle about going north of 100th Street. It's like, come on. Get over it. Don't walk around anywhere at 4 a.m, right? But by all means, go explore a city, neighborhoods that are soigné or ones that are more blue collar. It doesn't matter. I mean, people are people, right? Get in there. And Mexico City, I mean, from the tree-lined streets of Condesa to some of the, to Tepito Market, I mean, and everything in between. Bangkok, same reason. The hustle, the bustle, the energy of Bangkok, the heat, both in the air, the humidity, and the heat on the plate and in the food. I just absolutely adore everything about Bangkok. And again, it's that yin and yang. I do enjoy staying at, one of the 4 or 5 best hotels in that city, because even the best hotels are not that expensive, but they are oases. Is that the plural of an oasis? Oases? You have these incredible hotels with incredible service where nothing is missed and such intense luxury. And then you go out there and just wander around the city and get lost and wind up in places where you're standing on the street this tight because there's so many people crowding around you as workers get off eating, gayang, grilled chicken just on the street, or maybe grilled frog in a market, or a bowl of noodle soup at a market at 5 a.m. Chengdu, the capital of Sichuan province, my favorite city in China. Same deal. I guess these cities do all have something in common. It's not one vibe. Paris, just for walking around. I mean, Paris is just, at night, Paris, holding some girl's hand. I mean, come on. London, London's having a renaissance. I mean, it just has, and has gotten so mod in the best sense of the word, and I'm obsessed with London. Same reason I'm obsessed with Venice. I've been going to Venice since I was 7 years old. That's the first time my dad took me there. I worked and lived in Venice for at 2 different times in my life in my early 20s because I loved it so much, and I just keep going back. There's nothing like it in the world. Fez in Morocco, especially the old town. I like to stay at a good riad. Sun pouring through the central opening in the middle, great food, go out my door and rent a human being and a donkey. They will help you shop. That's why the donkey's there, because cars are too narrow for the road and no one's going to trust you. You can't rent a donkey. The donkey comes with someone. And then I always persuade that person to take me to their favorite place to eat fool, which is a lima bean soup, thick and pasty, with drizzle a lot of olive oil and salt in it and squeeze some lemon. And then someone comes running from the local bakery and hands you a stack of bread to eat with it, and you give them $1 for doing it. It's just the greatest. Love that town. Dakar in Senegal. Senegal is on the west coast of Africa. The beaches, the ocean, amazing. The city is intense and vibrant. The food is out of control. What people forget is that the French and the Vietnamese were both in Senegal. So, there's a West African country where one of the street snacks of choice is, fried Vietnamese spring rolls. It's fantastic. And I love their little dried chilies and the seafood there. Oh, fantastic. All those great rice dishes with, anywhere in Southern Africa. I love Southern Africa. I love Africa in general, but anywhere in Southern Africa. Damascus, I was there. I yearn to go back. I would like political stability to come back to Syria just so I can go back to Damascus, although sadly, the brutal dictatorship there has just bombed everything I love about that country physically out of existence, except the heart of the people, who I know the majority of them would like things to be different. But Syria is just one of those countries where, again, the food and that big city of Damascus. I toured the old Jewish temples there. My last trip there, which is about 4 months before Assad started bombing his own people, and it was one of the best trips of my life. Montreal and Toronto in Canada, for various reasons, both just sprawling, beautiful cities, although Montreal less sprawling. Toronto has 5 Chinatowns. I adore it. Montreal is probably, and I have some family up there, one of the best eating cities in the world. And I'm not just talking about like the lumberjack vibe, food scene there, hearty, rich foods with lots of maple syrup, right? It's a joke. The food in Montreal is unbelievable. Taipei, capital of Taiwan. I would just assume go to Taipei to eat as anywhere in the world. Michael writes, "Hi, Andrew. Heading to Minneapolis with my fiance and 3-year-old son. Always want to eat somewhere new and not a chain restaurant. Looking for your opinion on a good family-friendly restaurant." Well, it depends what kind of family. When my kid was 3, I took him to all the places I wanted to go to, and I think it's why today he loves great tacos and great, because when he was 3, I took him to some crazy places to eat tacos. Assuming your 3-year-old likes to eat, Kim's new place is amazing. Great Korean food. Oro by Nixta, fantastic Mexican food. Porzana, Daniel Del Prado's new place. It's kind of like a quasi South American steakhouse vibe, but something there for everyone and lovely. Herbst Market in St. Paul, Herbst. Guy Noy, Ann Ahmed's new place that's Laotian. Marty's Deli, great new sandwich place. These are all new. But if it doesn't have to be new, I mean, I tell everyone, go to Spoon and Stable. Go at 5 o'clock. They'll seat you. Just walk in. Especially if you have a little kid. They have homemade pasta on the menu. Great fit. The food is very simple. So if you just want to, say, hey, my kid wants the pork chop, but can you just leave off the blank? Everything's made to order. Of course they do that. We're a big pizza family, and Punch and Lola both do a great job here of that. I'm actually going to Lola later this afternoon with my child. Rainbow Chinese and Shuang Chang, two of my favorite Chinese restaurants in town, both on very different vibes. Tammy Wong's 30-year-old restaurant, Rainbow Chinese, fantastic. Both Cantonese in the main, with a sprinkling of other influences in there. Shuang Chang in Dinkytown, which is our family's sort of regular. I think that's enough. Michelle writes, I will be on the chef's cruise in March. Oh, fantastic. But don't see you doing one of the curated dinners. No, I am not. Not everyone is doing a curated dinner. This is a cruise. I encourage you to go on. It is, and we'll put information in here in print below where you're seeing the screen. So there's like 12 great chefs doing this thing. Everyone from Michael Simon and Marcus Samuelson to me, and who else is doing it? Mark Murphy and Ann it's a whole bunch of Food Network people and me. And it's going to be a blast. I am doing demos. Marcus and I are actually doing a side-by-side rice demo, which is going to be fun. And then Mark Murphy and I are doing a beach barbecue for the entire boat. So while I'm not doing a curated dinner in the dining rooms, which some people are, I'm doing my curated dinner on the beach. More fun. So if you're going, you can opt in for that. Michael writes, hi, I have a question about all-clad cookware. In your opinion, are their handles designed to be as awkward and uncomfortable as possible, or did they just get lucky? Wow, that's a shot. I don't find them uncomfortable, but I have a big hand, and maybe, Michael, you have a smaller hand. But it's the same way with knives. Your hand will cramp up or something, or not grip it, or you'll get a pan to turn because size of your hand. If you don't like the all-clad handle, then that's not for you, obviously. And I didn't mean that to be a shot. I just mean that legitimately. Everyone always focuses on, and rightfully so, on how a pan cooks, how it handles food, how it holds temperature, how it distributes heat, how it cleans up, how long it lasts. But what's very important is how you hold it. Now, that's mostly true for saute pans. Otherwise, how often are you really holding a pan, right? My saute pans and woks handles are very important to me because I'm sauteing. I have my hand on them a lot. I'm moving the food around it using the handle. And I have some woks that just have two side handles that are very heavy, and I use wok tools in. And then I have others where I use a single wok tool and hold on to the handle of it. I need to make sure that handle is comfortable. Not too thin, not too thick, comfortable for my hand. Jim writes, longtime fan from Cleveland, Ohio. Many thanks for all you are doing. Sure, thank you. He wants tips for freezing items. Maximum length, containers, vacuum seal, etc. Likely not one answer for all items, but some high-level tips would be gratefully appreciated. Yes, I invested all of $100 and got a home vacuum sealer machine. Obviously, we have a professional suck box at our kitchen studio, but that's a big, giant unit that's $8,000. But yeah, I seal things in plastic and they last for years in my freezer. And if it's properly frozen, a lot of things can last a long time. My stocks and soups all go with a date and a label on them so that I can rotate things through and pull them out. as someone who likes to cook in big batches once a week or once every 2 weeks, and is always traveling and comes home and has to feed just me or maybe 10 people, I use my freezer a lot. I think people underutilize their freezers. I think people's freezers are where they go to dump things they don't want to throw out. And I'm much more prescriptive and intentional about it. So I don't want to spend $10 for really good Italian tomato paste in a little squeeze tube. So I buy really good Italian tomato paste in a 16-ounce jar or 500-gram jar. And I take out what I need the first time, and then I portion out all the rest and freeze them almost paper thin, 2 tablespoons at a time in Ziploc snack bags, which is a little, it's like 2.5 inches high and 6 inches long. And once I put the 2 or 3 tablespoons of tomato paste in and I flatten the tomato paste and seal it, I don't even need 20 seconds on the counter or 5 seconds under running water, and it's all defrosted. I just open it up, drag a spoon through, and it all comes out. I mean, it's fantastic. And most of my recipes only call for a couple tablespoons of tomato paste, so I have that. I do not vacuum seal things like macroot lime leaves or sesame seeds or other nuts that I put in the freezer, because I'm always using a couple tablespoons at a time. I divide it up. Liquids, I like stock and stuff like that. I like to freeze flat in bags and freeze them on cookie sheets, then take the cookie sheet away because I can line stuff up. It saves room, but it also defrosts quickly. And I love making, I just made homemade quiche, and I'm going to have one uncooked in the freezer, and it'll go from freezer to oven, and we'll just cook for an hour and 10 minutes instead of 30 minutes. Lasagnas, baked pasta dishes, all kinds of stuff, but you have to label it and put a date on it. And yes, I will take a lasagna pan with an uncooked lasagna, put it in a plastic bag, and stick one end, special plastic bags that come with these sealing machines, and it sucks the air out of it and seals it, and then I just cut it. That way I don't get freezer burn, right? I love my freezer. Ashley Christensen and Kate Golan wrote a book about freezing foods. You should look it up on Amazon. I'm blanking on the name of it. I think it's got some title of like freezing your food or whatever. It's a really, really helpful guide for all that kind of stuff. God of Frogs, what an interesting name. Writes, do you baste brisket at all whilst in the oven? Well, I'm making one for New Year's Eve, and so this is great. No, I don't. I just let it cook for the entirety, and I take a piece of aluminum. I brown my brisket, smother it with sauteed onions, throw herb springs, maybe a cup of wine and a tablespoon of tomato paste into the pan. Sometimes not even any liquid at all, because the brisket gives off so much juices, and I tent only the meat. In other words, I put a piece of aluminum foil over it. It browns underneath there, but it holds the moisture in on top of the meat. So the meat doesn't, the top of the meat, the crown, I know it's the fattiest part, but I don't want it to dry out. I'd rather take that off at the end and pop it under the broiler for 45 seconds if I need to, but I don't. It browns sort of perfectly. I've kind of mastered brisket. I'm an old Jew, right? I mean, if I haven't mastered brisket by this point, really, I have no business cooking. And it's wonderful. Now, a word about sauce. When I pull my brisket out, if I have 2-3 cups of liquid in the bottom and I've just done onions, I will lift the brisket and all the onions out and put it on a platter. And while it's resting, I will reduce, I'll saute some shallots and tomato paste and hit it with a cup of red wine and let that reduce to almost nothing, and then pour the brisket juices into that, skimmed of fat, of course, and reduce that for 20 minutes until I have a really nice jus to pour over it. You can thicken that with beurre Marnier, just a little flour and butter whipped together, or a roux, and stir a little in if you want to thicken it more like an American gravy. But I usually like to just use natural jus. Christian writes, I'm a public elementary educator. I'm extremely grateful for your work, highlighting how shameful of a job we're doing in this country to feed our children and their families properly. That's true. I really hope we can get some serious momentum going this election to fix that issue. So do I. Regardless, not red or blue or left or right, we should be talking about food at election time. It's, our food system in America, every piece of it, from independent restaurants to farming to, we just take food in general, is such a massive piece of our GDP that we're not talking about it, that we're not talking about feeding the hungry, that we're not talking about where to spend money on food to help lift people out of unhealthy situations so we can save money on healthcare costs in America. It's crazy. Pilot programs in our federal and state prison systems show that if you're actually feeding people, magically recidivism rates fall. The better the food, the less money we spend on our criminal justice system in this country. Every study shows food is one of many answers to solving so many of our problems, and yet we ignore it. So we should be listening to candidates and asking them questions about food. Anyway, Christian's question is, if legality, morality, and money were not objects or obstacles, and you could only do it one time, what is the one thing you would eat and why? Wow. Well, I'd have to say that the one thing that I've had a chance to eat, there's two immediate things come to mind, right? There's tiny little birds like ortolans, which are illegal in Europe, but in many parts of Asia, they are not illegal, and they exist in tremendous numbers. So you can still have roasted little birds, even little baby ducklings and chickies. They'll be eviscerated and marinated and deep fried and then serve a little bag of sauce to dip into. I love that. So I still get that itch scratched. I had the opportunity when I was in Samoa before the tsunami 7 years ago that wiped out that side of the island where the giant scallops existed, to be with a tribe whose Matai chieftain invited me to dine on what to this day is probably not only one of the best things I've ever eaten, but the thing I know I will never eat again, which is a giant scallop. I'm talking about a scallop that is this big, twice the size of a basketball, weighs 75, 80 pounds. And by the time you get it open, all pieces of on those scallops, almost every piece can be eaten. But just the mantle that kind of holds the shell together, that has thousands, millions of little eyes all across it, chopped raw with some calamansi juice. The muscle, what we call the scallop, was huge. And I got to eat it raw and seared. It just blew my mind. Now, no one should be eating them anymore. We lost one of the last active beds where even the people they were being studied. I should go back. The reason I got to eat them was there was a group that was there monitoring these creatures. You're not allowed to eat them anymore, but the tribal peoples who owned that place, a beach, etc., according to Samoan law, were able to eat it. And I think they were given 2 or 3 a year, part of the agreement. And I was there when they used one of their tags to pull one from the water. And so I guess I'd want one of those if legality, morality, and everything else were not an issue. That's probably the one. I think everything else is probably still on the table, right? I have no desire to eat other endangered species. And I get my tuna itch scratched. I don't need to eat wild bluefin and all the rest of that stuff. Yeah, giant scallop. Happy New Year's. See you in 2024.